Good morning, all of you. We will be discussing today the concepts of data warehousing. We'll be continuing with that. We'll be completing that particular part. I am extremely sorry for one thing. Just I forgot to teach you one thing in our previous chapter, one type of regression, which we'll be discussing today. Don't worry about that. I will not skip it, but I forgot to discuss, and I started with a new chapter. Don't worry, that is not again a big deal to discuss. Fine. So let us discuss data warehouse first. We'll complete that, and then we'll discuss the remaining part of regression, that is logistic regression. I think we have not discussed logistic regression. Is it so? Have we discussed logistic regression? Yes. Have we discussed logistic regression? See, at least reply to the question. Okay, not an issue. Fine. So let's start up with the remaining part of data warehousing. So yesterday we had discussed ETL operation, that is extraction, transformation, and loading. So data extraction, then data is to be cleaned, then data transformation takes place, then loading takes place, and refreshment. That means refreshing of the data when operational data is getting updated. Then comes the next concept is metadata repository. Now, if you are clear about this multi-tiered architecture of data warehousing, in that case, there is one concept named as what we say metadata. This is more important, metadata. Now, this metadata works like storing the data of data warehousing. So, what type of data it stores? Data warehouse. What is the data about this data warehouse? So, in that case, if we discuss, then metadata is the data defining warehouse objects. What is there in warehouse? It stores description of the structure of data warehouse. That is schema used, views used, dimensions, hierarchies, derived data from definitions, data marts, locations, and contents. See, what we discussed was as per the architecture, we generate data marts. We generate the data marts from enterprise warehouse. So those locations of data marts is a metadata. So those information will be storing. Then second, operational metadata, that is data lineage, history of migrated data and transformation path. That means history of data from where the data has come. See, we are having various operational databases available from which we create the data warehouse. So data warehouse, if we discuss from where it was created, from which operational database was used to create the warehouse, such metadata is to be stored. And again, the monitoring information like warehouse usage statistics, then where error reports, audit trails, etc. that are to be monitored, and those informations are stored in operational metadata. Then the algorithms used for summarization. Say we are actually using data warehousing for the purpose of decision making. Now this decision making system uses some algorithms. So what algorithms are used? What is the summary? What is the algorithm used? Then the summary of that algorithm is categorized or is stored in metadata. Then mapping from operational environment to the data warehouse. That is operational environment to data warehouse. What data we map? Because we don't take all the columns. Only we require the tables. Only we require attributes we take into the data warehouse. Then data related to system performance. So warehouse schema, views, and derived data definitions. And business data, business terms and definitions, ownership of the data, who created the data, and policies, charging policies, etc. Various such metadata are stored into the metadata repository. See, it is a separate repository required for data warehouse because it is not like our normal relational databases wherein we have limited metadata like tables, views, then we are having stored procedures, functions, cursors. It is not like that. So over here, the scenario is that large metadata informations are required. So these are the required data structures, operational metadata, then algorithms, mapping, system performance, and business data are stored. Now comes the important concept of data warehousing, that is data warehouse modeling, that is data cube and OLAP, online analytical processing. So data cube, the first and foremost thing what we need to discuss is data cube. Now till date in our DBMS, we have studied the concept of database and tables and spreadsheets. Spreadsheet means we are talking of Excel. Excel is also one kind of database. So now we are moving on to the data cubes. Cube, a three-dimensional structure, four-dimensional structure, n-dimensional structure. So from tables and spreadsheets, we are moving on to now data cubes, which is there in case of data warehousing. So if I talk of Excel, then spreadsheet. If I talk of databases, then tables. Now if I talk of warehouse, then data cubes. So data warehouse is based on multi-dimensional data model which views data in form of data cube. We'll see the example also. A data cube such as sales. Say for example, I am having the sales of the company, allows data to be modeled in multiple dimensions. Now for that we require two things. The first is dimension table. See, in this case, in data warehouse, it's nothing new, but just the representation is different. Everything for data warehouse, we are going to use our operational databases only. Operational database means the SQL server or Oracle or MySQL. That databases only we are going to use, but collectively all of them. So in that case, the tables of those data only we are going to use. So in this case, there are two types of tables. In case of data warehouse, there are two types of tables. One is dimension table and second is fact table. Now, dimension table means our actual subject oriented tables. Like say for example, sales, the sales of item name, brand and type, and the time of the sales, that is day, week, month, quarter and year. But the fact table, that is fact table is a table which is used to take the decision. Fact table is the table which is used to take the decision, which contains the measures such as dollars sold and keys to each of the related dimension table. See, over here the important thing is contains the measures such as dollars sold, means over here we are talking the items which are sold and correspondingly the amount which we obtained. So total amount of the items sold, that is our main goal. That is our fact table. And for fact table, we require dimension tables because we should have the items, which item is sold at which time and what amount. So the fact table is a measure table. It is also termed as measure table. So there are two types of tables in case of data warehouse, that is dimension table and another is fact table. So earlier the scenario was in our relational database we were having two types of table, master table and detail table, or transaction table, master table, detail table. Over here we are having dimension table and fact table. So in data warehousing literature, ND base cube, called a base cuboid. See, cube, over here they are terming it to be a cuboid because it is not of type square, so we cannot say it to be a cube. It is a cuboid. But n-dimensional, sir, generally we have discussed one-dimensional structure we had seen, two-dimensional structure we had seen. What is now this three-dimensional structure? So over here what we are having is a three-dimensional structure we can see, n-dimensional structure also we can see. So in data warehousing literature, ND base cube is called a base cuboid. And in that, the topmost 0D, zero-dimensional cuboid, which holds the highest level of summarization, is called apex cuboid. And the lattices of cuboid forms a data cube. So, didn't got. Let's see an example. See, this is a cuboid structure. Sir, we cannot see a cube over here. Don't worry, there is no cube over here. But 0D, apex cuboid, it is having the summarization. But if you go at next level, one dimension cuboid, that is only dimension tables. Like if I talk of only time table, time, then item table, location table, supplier table, individual tables are there, which are termed as 1D cuboids. But if I combine them together, two tables I combine. See, I combine two tables. Means if I show you in Excel, then time and location. See, over here, say for example, I take time, and over here I take location. It is x-axis location, y-axis time. Let's say quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. Location, if I talk, location, if I discuss, just a minute. Insert, yes. Location, if I discuss, then let's say location, the city, Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, 4 cities, and the time. So, time is quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. These are the time. A 2D structure. It is a 2D structure, and these are all locations. See, this is how it is used. Now see the structure. So 2D. Same way, this is I had made it for time and location. This is what I had made it for time and location. Same way I can make it for time and item. Item and location. Then time and supplier. Item and supplier. Supplier and location. So likewise I can make two cuboids, 2D cuboids. But sir, what about 3D? That means I take three common attributes, three attributes together. Time, item, location. See, time, item, location. Then time, item, supplier. See, second cuboid. Third can be time, location, supplier. And lastly, item, location, supplier. And I am having 4 total tables, 4 dimension tables. I can make them together and make one table. That is time, item, location, supplier. A one complete 4D cuboid. So this is the structure which you had shown. But how would be the data? How can we represent the data? How can we see the data? See, this is complete virtualization. This data warehousing cube is a completely virtual concept. In real-time scenario, we cannot make 3D structure. We can always go for 2D only. But we have to consider them in this way, in form of cuboid. So, moving further, so conceptual modeling of data warehouse requires dimensions and measures. Then there are 3 types of such modeling. See, this is what we have created. From this, we can have 3 types of modeling. The one is star schema, where a fact table in the middle connected to a set of dimension tables. Let me show you the example. Example of star schema. See this. These are my dimension tables, time with attributes, time, key, day of the week, month, quarter, year. Branch key, branch name, branch type. Item key, item name, brand type, supplier type. And location key, street, city, state or province and country. Now if you can see in this, these all are dimension tables. But if we talk of a relational normal database, then these are our master tables. From this we are having transaction table, but over here we will not say transaction table. Over here we will say it to be a dimension table are these, but we will say it to be fact table. See, this is our fact table. Sales fact table, sales table, wherein sales at this time, this item, at this branch, at this location, these number of units were sold. Total dollars what we get is this, and this was the average sales. So time key is connected with this table, item key, branch key, and location key. See, this is the example of star schema. See, you can see a star is there, star structure. So that's why it is termed as star schema. But sir, in this case, there is a problem of in item table. There is a problem in item table. What is that problem? A supplier is a problem. This table is not a normalized table. Sir, what is normalized? Normalization, supplier type. So what I'll do is I'll add a supplier key over here and I make a separate supplier table. So that becomes another structure. This is a star schema. That becomes another structure, and what we call it to be a snowflake schema. See, this is a structure, snowflake. Means instead of supplier type, now I took supplier key over here, and this key is connected to supplier table. Supplier key connected with supplier type. Same way for the location, if you check out, see I changed for a location also. Location key, street, city, state, country. See, in some of the locations, state and country are same. So I need to normalize this table. In some of the locations, state and country are same. So I need to do the normalization. So where I did the normalization, I prepared one city key, a city table. See, city key, city, state, and country. So I had done the normalization. And if you perform the normalization of the dimension table, then that schema is termed as snowflake schema. Then that schema is termed as snowflake schema. See this? Read the definition. A refinement of star schema where some dimensional hierarchies, dimension tables, is normalized into a set of smaller dimensions, forming a shape similar to snowflake. That's why the schema name is given as snowflake schema. Are you getting this? So star schema, snowflake schema. The next what we are having is fact constellation. Fact constellation. Multiple fact tables share the dimension tables. See, multiple fact. In these two, star schema, snowflake schema, we are having only one fact table, whereas all others dimension tables. But in this case, we are having only one. Sorry, in the fact constellation, see, the word uses fact constellations. So in that case, what we are having is we are having more than one fact table. So which are connected to dimension tables. So that's why they termed it to be a fact constellation, therefore called galaxy schema or fact constellation. Let us see that, sir, how it can be. Let me show you that structure also. See, these are our dimension tables 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is our one fact table which we had discussed in our star schema and snowflake schema. These are connected. But there is one more fact table, that is shipping fact table. This shipping fact table consists of the keys, time key, that means at this time, at the given time, for the given item, for the given shipper, from this location to this location, for this cost, these number of units were shipped. This is spoken like this. So time key, item key, shipper key, from location to location. So the measure key are, what are the measures to be taken care? Dollars cost and units shipped. So this is the scenario. This is termed as FECT constellation. So there are three types of schema. One is star schema, second is snowflake schema, and third is FECT constellations. But I want to add something more to this. Out of all these three, the highly used schema is star schema. While data mining process, the highly used schema is star schema. Because the queries which are formed for us, the queries which we prepare are complex in case of data warehousing. That is, in OLAP model, the queries are very complex. So for that, number of joins increases. So star schema is better to use. So many data warehouses uses the concept of star schema instead of snowflake and FECT constellations. You can see this now. So I don't know about your exams, but in exam they can ask you to prepare a star schema, for student information system. In exam, I don't know about your exams, whether you're going to get theoretical exams or a multiple choice question exams, I don't know. But whatever it may be, it can be in real time scenario, in practice, they can ask you to prepare a star schema for the given information system. It can be a student information system, it can be a any of the system, any information system. Railway information system you can take, airport management you can take, hospital management you can take. So there you need to prepare the schema, and based on that you need to work, because to prepare the schema is the first step in OLAP. It is the first step in OLAP structure. Then you can prepare the queries, otherwise you cannot execute the queries. See the concept hierarchy, dimensions. See, you can consider it like this way. All, see, in previous example which we discussed of this, all, then time, item, location, supplier. See, as you go downwards, like this way, all, then region wise, Europe, North America, country wise you go. So Germany, Spain, Canada, Mexico, city, Frankfurt, Vancouver, Toronto, office, Elgin, Mvin. So this is how you can structure it. A dimension based on location. This is termed as location, dimension based on location. In the last part for this, what we need to discuss is data cube measures. There are three categories. The first is distributive. If the result derived by applying the function to n aggregate values is the same as that derived by applying functions on all data without partitioning. See, we don't partition the data. The data is completely distributive. So data cube measures are, first is distributive. Second is algebraic, where we apply algebraic functions like average, mean of n, standard deviations. And lastly, holistic, where we go for the statistical operations like median, mode, rank. So these are the three measures we can take here. See the measures over here. The measures I am talking of, these measures. Units sold, that means it is distributive, count. Then dollars sold, again count. Average sales, so it is arithmetic. See, algebraic, average function, mean of n, standard deviation. So always measures are either distributive, either algebraic or holistic. So actually this is all about, this is as per the syllabus defined. These are the things related to data warehouse. We are not having the operations on data warehouse in detail as per your syllabus, so we'll not be discussing them, because there are four operations taken place on data warehouse. One is slice, then drill, then project. There are four operations available, which I'm not going to discuss. Fine with this? So the last part, see, with this our chapter is over, but the remaining part what I am having is logistic regression, which I have left out. Let us discuss that. With this our chapter for data warehouse is over. So if you want to go into the detail of data warehouse still, then you can study OLAP structure by yourself. In OLAP you can prepare this particular schema and then you can execute the queries. Fine. So last type of regression which I skipped was logistic regression. See, somewhere categorical responses are required. That is, whether or not a person smokes. What can be the answer? If a person smokes, then he is a smoker. If not, then he is a non-smoker. Only two answers are available. You cannot get any other answer. Binary answer. Same way, success of medical treatment. Say if patient is undergoing any kind of medical treatment, then there are two possibilities about success. One is patient survives and another patient dies. So there is a mistake in the spelling, so don't go into that part. So success of medical treatment, so survives or dies. So these are the binary responses, wherein the answer is either yes or no, success or failure, true or false. So at that place we can apply logistic regression. Then another thing, opinion poll responses are also a type of logistic regression, where answer can be agree or disagree or can be neutral. But this answer is termed as ordinal response. So we'll discuss about this. We'll discuss this logistic regression, which is a prediction method. Say for example, over here we are having some data, a training data set. A training data set is there, which consists of age. See, the ages are given of the people who have signs of coronary heart disease. CD, I am representing it by means of CD. Heart disease, simple in simple language we term it to be heart disease. So age given, then heart disease, yes or no. We cannot have any other answer for heart disease. Yes, he is having heart disease or he is not having heart disease. So at age 22, he is not having. See, these are the data, survey data. 22, no CD. 23, no CD. 24, no. 35, yes. 41, yes. 49, yes. Likewise. See, if you see, as age increases, the chances of heart disease also increases. See, 0 means no heart disease, 1 means heart disease. Now, if we go for linear regression in this example, then it cannot be applied. Why? Because linear regression always works on mean square concept. Mean of the value, average of the value, mean square concept. So if I talk of the mean in this example, then a mean age of diseased and non-diseased can be given as diseased and non-diseased. So non-diseased 38.6 years is the mean average and diseased 58.7 is the mean average, which is of no use for us. Over here, we cannot apply linear regression. So the question arises, what type of regression is required? Okay, let us go for linear regression. Let us plot the points onto the graph. This is the analysis. Age 0 to 90. The data available are plotted. Yes or no. Coronary disease, yes or no. 0 to 1. See, there are only two answers. Age 22, no CD. Age 23, no. Age 24, no. 27, no. 28, no. 30, no. 30 again, no. 32, no. 33, no. 35, yes. Are you getting this? 35, yes. See, 35, yes. All these are no. 35, yes. Then 38, again no. 40, again no. 41, yes. Only two answers are there. So I cannot pass a linear line between this. I cannot plot a nearby point. See, these are very scattered than this linear line. I put the linear line also for this. So I cannot predict. So prediction comes out to be false. Are you getting my point? So prediction comes out to be false. So that's why I need to go for logistic regression. And logistic regression is completely dependent on probability. Logistic regression is completely dependent on the probability and not the mean value. Are you getting now? So probability whether a person is having a coronary disease or not. So over here the two probabilities are there only two probabilities, either success or failure. So two probabilities if we discuss, there are only two, one is success and another is failure. So got the concept now why we cannot go for linear regression in this? Because the data answer, the output dependent variable is binary, 0 or 1, true or false, yes or no, success or failure, person survives or person dies, smoker or non-smoker, likewise. So our main discussion point is success. That in case of binary, what is the ratio of success? So we'll say, I can say what is the proportion of success. In this case, how many success count is there? Over here, 0 means we term it to be success. Huh? In case of heart disease, we consider 0 to be success. Reverse logic. 0 means success, 1 means failure. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Out of 33 records, 19 records are for success. Are you getting my point? Out of 33, 19 are for success and 14 are for failure. So we find out the probability. So over here, in case of linear regression, we talk of mean value. But what is mean value in logistic regression? See, what's the mean of 0, 1 indicator variable? Mean, I cannot say 0 plus 1 means I cannot take the average of this 0.5. No. In this, my mean value is given as mean of y. It is not arithmetic mean. Huh? This y is not arithmetic mean. Is given as sigma yi upon n. But in our case, in logistic regression, it is given as number of ones divided by number of trials is equals to proportion of success. Sir, you told about 0 means you can take zeros also or you can take ones also. But success you need to take. So what is the goal of logistic regression now? Predict the true proportion of success. That is, we represent in form of pi at any value of the predictor. So by now this thing we want to represent in form of linear form. So binary logistic regression model is given as, it is a logarithmic model, binary because logarithmic. So log of success divided by 1 minus log of success divided by 1 minus success means what? What is 1 minus success? This is the probability, pi. Pi means it is a probability of success. So probability of success divided by 1 minus probability of success. What is it termed as? Can anyone state? Repeating my point again. This is probability of success. And 1 minus probability of success. What is it? Can anyone state, please? Can anyone? What is the probability of success divided by 1 minus probability of success? Out of which I am asking, what is probability of, what is this termed as? Probability of success. 1 minus probability of success. Can I say it is nothing but probability of failure? Because probability is always 1, 0 to 1. So 1 minus probability of success gives you probability of failure. So log, the equivalent relation is given as log of probability of success divided by probability of failure is equals to beta 0 plus beta 1 x. So again I got the linear model. But this form can be represented in this way. I removed the log from this. See, I removed the log, and this probability of success is given as exponent of beta 0 plus beta 1 x divided by 1 plus e raised to beta 0 plus beta 1 x. This form of equation is termed as logit form, and this form of equation is termed as probability form. Are you getting my point? Logit form, probability form. In both way you can plot. I'll come to that point. Where y is our binary response. Binary response means whether a person is a smoker or not. Smoker, non-smoker. Survives, dies. So it is a binary response, which we will be getting based on this probability, which we will obtain based on this probability. X is a quantitative predictor, that is our answer predicted, that means our input age. Pi, proportion of ones, yes or success at any x. Now the ratio of, now please listen carefully. Now the ratio of probability of success to probability of failure, that is pi upon 1 minus pi, probability of yes divided by probability of no, is termed as odds of yes. Probability of yes divided by probability of no is termed as odds of yes. Are you getting my point? Odds of yes. So new term came into the picture, odds. So pi upon 1 minus pi is equals to odd. We term it to be odds. It can be represented in other form also. Odds equals to pi upon 1 minus pi. Then pi can be given as odds upon 1 plus odds. What is odds? Probability of yes divided by probability of no, divided by 1 plus odds. So this is the different representation of your equation. So main form, logit form, then probability form, and we can say the odds are computed from this. So if you are having odds, then also you can find the probability. See, if you are having odds, you can find the probability. If you are probability, then you can find the odds. Actually, it is a ratio. Now comparing linear and logistic model. Now, see, actually when you plot the graph, for this, it gives you a S-shaped curve. S-shaped curve. You can see this. This is your S-shaped curve. The equation y equals to exponent b raised to b0 plus b1 into x divided by 1 plus exponent b0 plus b1 raised to x. Sorry, b1 into x. So this is the graph what you can get. Now see, now you can make out, this is our midline over here. And this is nothing but a probability graph. Probability. We have calculated the probability. Now say for example, probability always ranges from 0 to 1. This is probability. Y is probability. Probability always comes in between 0 to 1. Now, if my probability comes out to be 0.7, then what can be the binary answer I can take? If my probability comes out to be 0.7, then what binary answer I can take? I can take it to be 1. It is 0.7, so it comes out to be here. So I can consider the answer to be 1. Same way, if the probability is less than 0.5, probability is less than 0.5, so that means ranging between this, then it is considered the value, binary value to be 0, so failure. So based on the probability, we decide the value of y. So based on the probability, we decide the value of y, whether true or false. And this is our linear line. See, linear regression, linear model formula. But this is logistic model formula. It is a mistake over here. It is not 1. It is not 1. Fine. It is fine. You can use it. You can also use this equation. It is refined form of this one. Refined form of this. See over here, e raised to this. But in this case, we had taken 1 plus e raised to minus b0 plus b1x, b1 into x. So both are same. So this is an S-shaped curve. This is a linear line. This is the difference. Wherein we work with mean square value over here. In this case, we work with mean square value and the slope of the line. But in case of logistic model, we always work with the probability rather than any linear value. Now you can read this theory. I have gone through all this thing. A linear regression is not appropriate for predicting the value of binary variables for 2 reasons. 1, predict outside the acceptable range. Second, since the experiment can only have one of the 2 possible values, the residuals will not be normally distributed. Logistic regression produces a logistic curve, which I had shown you, which is limited to value 0 and 1. And logistic regression is similar to linear regression, but the curve is constructed using natural logarithm. Odds of the target value. Odds, we have discussed the odds. Ratio of probability of success divided by probability of failure. Now, let us calculate one example. Let us discuss one example. But before that, we again discuss the equation again. The probability for 1 is given by Pj. Say, for example, probability for becoming true is given by Pj. Then probability of false is 1 minus Pj, which I had already discussed. Pi upon 1 minus pi. Over here, I am using P instead of pi. Then linear regression form of logistic regression can also be given as, sorry, you shown it to be b0, beta 0 plus beta 1x. But over here, many coefficients, many variables. Yes, you cannot have only one independent variable. We can have more than one independent variable. So a person survives is dependent on his age, not only on his age, on his chronic disease also. Chronic disease also can decide. So there are more than one parameter. So x1, x2, x3, xn. So this is a logit form. Probability of success divided by probability of failure. Now let us discuss one example. Consider the input values are 1, 0, 1. Input x1, x2, x3, 1, 0, 1. And assume the equation. Assume the equation for some sample data. We are not going into how the equation is derived. We simply take an equation logit form to be 1.5 minus 0.6x1 plus 0.4x2 minus 0.3x3. That means these are the coefficients alpha, beta 1, beta 2, beta 3. Logit form, probability of success divided by probability of failure, the log of both. The equation we got is this. Now let us put our input values x1, x2, x3, 1, 0, 1 in this equation. So what we get is 0.6. Logit form is 0.6. Logit, log of p upon 1 minus p is 0.6. Now I want to compute the probability from this p. I want to compute p. So this is what I got. Log of p upon 1 minus p is 0.6. So can I write p equals to e raised to 0.6 divided by 1 plus e raised to 0.6. I removed the log. This is a natural log. So I removed it. So I got it to be this equation. And p computed is 0.65. So probability. I got the probability output y for input x1, x2, x3 to be 0.65. Is it greater than 0.5? Yes, it is greater than 0.5. Then the success can be predicted. But if its probability is less than 0.5, then failure is to be considered. So if probability greater than 0.5, then y is considered to be 1, and if probability is less than 0.5, then y is considered to be 0. So the question arises, sir, greater than 0.5, less than 0.5, what about equals to? We consider over here point greater than equals to 0.5. So this is an example. So again our question, we didn't get the question, how this equation is obtained. See, I taken a sample equation. We have not obtained it out. We are not going into the detail of obtaining this equation. We are just assuming this equation. Fine. Now this can also be obtained. This equation can also be obtained for beta 1, beta 2, like what we did in our linear regression. The formula for beta 1 was given, beta 2 was given. So based on that, you can compute this also. So these values you can compute for beta 1, beta 2, beta 3, and so on, and as well as alpha by using the training data set given. Fine. So that's it for all. That's it about logistic regression. So this was about prediction methods. So from my point of view, your syllabus is over from my point of view. From theory point of view, your syllabus is over from my side. Fine, I'll discuss with your sir regarding this. Fine. So thank you all of you. And if you have any doubt, you can approach me through your faculty. Fine. So thank you all of you. Today we stop here. See, please put down your roll numbers in this.